You're watching Buzz with Jess Lujan.
Good evening, Guam. I'm Jess Lujan. Welcome to this edition of The Buzz. We're continuing our coverage, of course, of war stories, of war survivors, World War II Guam war survivors. And tonight we have Mr. Francisco Perez Sablan. Before I introduce him, Real Faces, this book, we have 2 copies that arrive on Guam. Yes, this is the finished product. They should be available for sale in about 3 weeks. Unfortunately, corporate sponsorships were not enough to be able to bring this via airmail, so the books had to be shipped into Guam from Hong Kong, so they're anticipating arrival in about 3 weeks. So again, Real Faces, this is actually a finished book and had the opportunity to see it today, so I'm sharing it with you as well. So this is what it's going to look like. Good evening, Mr. Saban.
Good evening.
How are you doing?
I'm okay, John.
We, you know, I hate to have you repeat the story again that you have repeated all too often, but as a war survivor, as we read your story, and one of your stories is featured in Real Faces
Yes.
as well, you were just an infant when
Yes.
both your parents were killed
Yes.
by the Japanese,
Yes.
and it was fortunate because you were also supposed to be killed as well. Please tell us your story.
Okay. I learned all this from my grandmother. You know, because I was just a young.
You're an
boy at
infant,
that time.
yeah.
An infant. See, when the Japanese invade Guam, you know, they come to our place. They took everything that
Sure.
ours in our house.
All your possessions,
Yeah,
yeah.
our possession. And, you know, my father tried to, he went and tried to get some back.
Try to
Yeah.
salvage some of the, yeah.
Some did. But they accused him of stealing it, you know. So,
Stealing his own,
Yeah,
his own
our
goods,
own
yeah, yeah,
goods.
sure.
so they punished him. They hit him with the, you know, a wood.
Poles, yeah, yeah.
And they broke almost every bone in his body. And then my mother, you know, was crying to, you know, what they're doing to my father. So they kicked my mother and they grabbed me and they threw me on the fire where, you know, where the people cooked. You know, they threw me in that fire.
So where there was like charcoal,
Yes.
coal, whatever it is, that were being,
Yes.
so they threw you as an infant into the fire.
Into the fire. But my grandmother told me that a sergeant, you know, saw the thing, what happened.
A sergeant, Japanese sergeant.
Japanese sergeant.
Okay.
He ran over and pulled me out from the fire and handed me over to my grandmother.
To your grandmother.
But
to
right
now?
now, if you look at my back, you know, you can see all the scars.
So you were scarred. So
Yeah.
your basically your story says about 30%, 15 to 30% of your body has been
Yes.
burned, has been scarred because you were thrown in the fire. So you're basically during the invasion, as you said, the Japanese came into your place, took whatever belonged, took
Yes.
whatever goods they wanted.
Yeah.
Your
Food
fa-
and everything.
Yeah, everything. Your father tried to get some of it back.
Yeah.
Probably most of the necessities, maybe to keep
Yeah.
you guys alive, to do that. As a result, they accused them of stealing their stuff, stealing their stuff. So they beat him up. Your mother was trying to help him to try to stop that.
She was crying,
Right,
you know,
yeah.
shouting, you know. And, you know, the Japanese, when you cry, they even
Sure.
punish you too.
Yeah. So okay, so they beat up your dad. Your mom was also punched and kicked, I think.
Yes.
You said, yeah. They died as a result, right?
My mother was hospitalized, and they, in fact, they even say that she got TB because she vomited blood and she urinated blood.
Okay.
everything.
Okay.
And but my grandmother told me that she's not, said of not TB. It was the punishment of what the Japanese did to her.
Yeah.
You know, that's why she died.
So she probably, from the beating, she probably had internal injuries and
Right.
and bleeding
So
and
she
stuff,
died
internal
first
bleeding. Yeah.
before my father.
So your dad so the beating that he had, you said they broke almost every bone in his body,
Yes.
right? So did he die then right away? Or did
No,
he-
it takes about almost a week. I think that's what my grandmother told me, that my mother died first.
Okay.
Then,
Oh, so your mom died
That
before
first,
he did. Well, that was, I mean, that was just, I mean, to have TB and then all of a sudden, like, because TB doesn't really kill you right away, you know, yeah. So basically, as an infant, you're saying that, so you don't remember your mom and dad?
No.
Yeah.
To tell you the truth, not even a picture. I didn't even know. I didn't even know the looks of my father and my mother. What my grandmother told me, that's how I can picture it from the thing that my grandmother told me. You know, how my father looks and how my mother looks. You know. So, and from that time, you know, I really hate the Japanese, but my grandmother told me, boy, you don't hate the Japanese because the Japanese to help, you know, save you.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
So in the midst of the evil, there was also a saving grace as well. There was also someone there that said, hey, look, you know, you're doing this to his parents. Save this individual. And here you are today. And here you are today. You have kids. You have your wife.
I got two daughters.
Yeah.
You know.
You also have. You were telling me you have an older sister as well. So, but she what?
No. No,
You don't have a sister?
Older brother.
Older brother. Okay, I'm sorry. An older brother.
Yeah.
So you have an older brother. Where was he at in this whole thing when this thing was happening?
over with my other grandmother.
Oh, on the other side of the family.
From my father's side.
So he wasn't there for that. But what I'm sure almost similar things had happened to him. He wasn't almost killed, but you were saying he was put to work, right? I mean, he was out in the field. How much older is he than you?
He's I think about 2 years older.
Oh, so he was
1930. He was born in 1930.
So he was a baby as well. I mean, he wasn't that much older. He probably doesn't remember too much as well of the war. Yeah. Yeah.
When we grew up, I think about back in 1944, 45, that's the time that I start remembering things, you know. There's still Japanese around.
Sure.
You know, and even my uncle is the one that he joined the Guam militia.
Guam militia,
yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
And he's the one that protecting us.
Sure. So what else do you remember of what happened or what you were told by your grandmother? Your grandmother has since passed, right? She has passed. So what else did she tell you that happened to you, and where did you go from there? Your grandmother raised you. You were raised without, of course, a mother and father. You didn't know your mother and father. You didn't even know what they looked like. How was that growing up? Because you kind of grew up during the war and then the liberation and all that. So you must have grown up pretty fast as well, right? I mean, you must there was probably very little to remember of being a child. You almost had to be, because you basically had to fend for yourself. You had to make a living and things like that. Your story says you had to quit school. You were only eating bananas and all that. Huh?
To tell you the truth, lucky that I'm still alive right now, because we don't even have any food. What raised me up is the taro, the breadfruit, the bananas, you know, and yam. And we go fishing at Pagu Bay. Even the small fish, we catch the small fish, and you know, we fry that thing or make calagwin thing, and that's what we eat with the banana or the taro, you know, like that. And that's how I grew up. That's
how you grew up.
Yes.
And it was actually, you're selling, it was a luxury when you had Spam. It was like, wow.
Lucky if we ever eat, I don't think we ever eat Spam.
Ever had Spam?
I think kind of sardine and that kind of corned beef like that. You know, to tell you the truth, you know, when I start going to school, I only got 2 pants and 2 shirts, you know, and 1 shoes. Sometimes there's a hole already in the bottom of my shoes, but I still use it to go to school because my grandmother cannot afford to buy me another shoes.
Sure.
So for every year, 1 shoes, 2 pants, and 2 shirts. Every time when I come home from school, my grandmother would clean that thing, dry it and iron it for the next day. Like
So you had the uniform. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to pay some bills. We'll come back and tell more of Mr. Francisco Perez Sablan's story when we